Thank you very much. Goodbye.
The time, just after 2 minutes to 10. 2 minutes left to determine the outcome of this election after 5 turbulent years of British politics.
The 87 election campaign was characterised
Thank you to Norman Tebbit.
The leadership contest. John Major is within 2 votes.
This was within 4 votes of our estimate. We're very
I
pleased.
wish
Thank you
John
very much.
Major all the luck
I believe
in
it
the
is an
world.
immensely worthwhile
I
job to
therefore
do.
declare Paddy Ashdown elected as leader
We
of
will
the
campaign
Social
every day until Mr Major is forced to have a general election. Then
I
we'll
saw
be...
Her Majesty the Queen and sought her permission for a dissolution of Parliament and a general election on April the 9th.
It is up to the British people to decide. As Democrats,
The momentum is building. People know what the Tories stand for.
Wouldn't this say box be simple?
Labour's image makers appear to have gone into presidential overdrive.
From Sky News, this is Election 92. Presented by David Frost, Michael Wilson, Selina Scott and Adam Bolton. With expert analysis from political scientist Dr Michael Thrasher and Donald McCormick analysing the crucial Scottish vote. With the party leaders, Judith Dawson as John Major faces the people for the first time, Richard Bestick as Neil Kinnock tries to end the Thatcher-led Conservative era, and Alex Crawford as Paddy Ashdown waits to find a new era for the Liberal Democrats. From Sky News, this is Election 92.
It is 10 o'clock. The polls have closed, and with them an end to one of the most turbulent periods in British politics, or perhaps not. For now, the nation has decided, the polling booths are closed, and the ballot boxes coming in as constituencies all over Britain prepare for the big count. All the indications tonight so far are pointing to a hung parliament, just a few seats either way, and that could mean another election in a matter of months.
Labour led narrowly in opinion polls throughout the campaign, but after the final surveys, rumours have been mounting of a last-minute swing to the Conservatives. And while the bright British weather attracted a large voter turnout, the city was in optimistic mood, with the FT Ordinary Share Index closing up 43 points on the day. So let's look at tonight's possible outcome on the basis of the best information available, the Sky News entrance poll of polls and the Sky News exit poll of polls. But now the first exit poll to be released has the Labour Party maybe 5 seats ahead of the Conservatives, but still in a hung parliament. It's a sample of 25,300 people voting until 4 p.m. this evening at 100 polling booths. And as you can see, the Sun newspaper exit poll by ICM has Labour likely to take 41% of the vote. The Conservatives on 38%, 3 points behind Labour, and the Liberal Democrats on 18%. That 7% swing, as represented by the Sun ICM poll, is both national and regional. And with me is Dr Michael Thrasher to talk about these exit polls and the projections. What do you make of that poll, first of all?
Well, it's a 7% swing, not 8, which Neil Kinnock needs to be the overall majority, but it's big enough to make him the largest party in a hung parliament. So that from that initial exit poll, Labour would be very encouraged indeed.
Right, we're just hearing incidentally that another poll by NOP for the BBC is saying that it's too close to call. The Conservatives could be 25 seats short of an overall majority, so around about 300. And they're saying Labour are slightly ahead, about 13 seats short of an overall majority. And we're just hearing a poll from Harris and ITN. They're putting the Conservatives on 41%, Labour on 37%, Liberal Democrats on 18%, and other the Scots Nats on 4. So we've got 2 diametrically opposed polls there. ITN Harris saying there's been a last-minute surge to the Conservatives. The Sun ICM we're just hearing saying that, in fact, Labour are ahead. Now, just look at these 2 figures. If either one is true, if it's 38-41, we're in a hung parliament definitely, Michael.
That's right. Yes.
And definitely Labour the biggest party.
That would be the case, yes.
Now, if it's 41-37, where are we then?
Just quickly doing the calculations in my head, I think that would give the Conservatives an overall majority. I mean, you just thrown those figures at me, but that's Yes, that's Tories would have an overall majority. That's something like a 3.5% swing.
Right. I understand that Harris are saying that they would reckon that would be 305 seats for the Conservatives and 294 for Labour. I think there's a point we should make here, of course, is that all these polls always get the Liberal Democrats wrong, don't they?
Well, in the past, it's been a problem in guessing not only the Liberal overall share of the vote, but particularly which seats that they can gain, because the Liberal Democrats have a habit now of underperforming in terms of the overall share of the vote, but winning seats nevertheless. So even using those figures and projecting them onto a House of Commons is still risky because of that Liberal Democrat factor of winning seats against the tide, if you like.
I mean, the fact is when you aggregate out all these polls, one too close to call, one the Tories ahead, one Labour Party ahead, effectively we're not going to be much the wiser after that even, are we?
I think it just reflects the overall pattern of the polls throughout the campaign. They've been up and down, no party able to, if you like, establish a lead over the other. So it merely confirms, if you like, the pattern of the campaign as a whole.
If the campaign is like this, if the polls have been all over the place, if the exit polls are all over the place as we're seeing now, will we, in fact, know until the last seat is in, until we get the news from Richmond, Yorkshire on William Hague has held a seat at tomorrow lunchtime?
I think more and more what these figures demonstrate for me is that we will have to have quite a number of seats in before we, with any degree of certainty, know which way the wind is blowing. It could be that if you like, the regions are behaving in different ways, and that's perhaps what's cluttering up in terms of the projections of the two exit polls. That's what's, if you like, making them fuzzy. They're actually going in opposite directions from one another.
No, I mean, obviously they do these at 100 sampling points. There are 650 constituencies and God knows how many polling booths. So, I mean, should we really take any notice of them at all?
Well, I think you have to take notice of exit polls, but I mean, the problem is, of course, what we've got here is two exit polls which appear to be moving in opposite directions.
Now, there are about 10 constituencies competing to be first in with the results, including Torbay down there in Devon. We've got some pictures just coming in there of the ballot boxes just coming in and being verified. And as we look at those pictures, I'll just reiterate what the three exit polls tonight are saying. A poll done by ICM for the Sun of 25,000 voters says the Conservatives are on 38%, Labour on 41%, and the Liberal Democrats on 18%. That would put the Tories ahead. That would put the Labour Party ahead in a hung parliament. The BBC exit poll, of which I think we have an illustration, is too close to call. They're not predicting who has won the election. They're saying they think possibly the Conservatives are rather shorter of an overall majority in a hung parliament than the Labour Party. But ITN have good news for John Major, or at least good cheer for John Major. They're saying, by their Harris research pollsters, that the Conservatives are on 41, Labour on 37. Again, that would be a hung parliament, but that would put the Conservatives on around, they estimate, 305 seats, and Labour on 294. So everything's still to play for, I think, David.
Adam, absolutely, and a brilliant conspiracy, as you will all see, by the television industry to keep you all awake, because we can give no guidance whatever about anything. So we'll rely on the wise men. What do you make of that?
I don't think we can do anything more than just wait now until we find the first 30 or 40 results. I rather agree. I don't think we should draw too much even from the first 10 results. It's going to be very difficult to make an assessment. There are big regional variations. Labour, I still think, are probably going to do better than we had thought in Yorkshire and the Midlands. But it's too. I'm going to pass. I'm going to wait till the people have spoken.
But this person will now speak, Mr. Norman Tebbit.
Well, I agree. It's very difficult to tell at this stage, particularly for us here, because we don't have the amount of information which is necessary to even guess at it. In 1987, my forecast made the weekend that we decided to call the election was that the Conservative Party would have a majority of 97. We had a majority of 101. Now, on election day, if you actually did the analysis on the basis of the numbers and the swing and the total numbers of votes cast, I'm told that you would have come to the conclusion that the Conservatives would have had a majority of 60. We had a majority of 100. because we had selected the seats in the way that the Liberals have done too, and I'm sure the Labour Party has done, and put our effort into them successfully.
But I mean, it's also confusing because the first one we heard about there, which stopped at 4 o'clock, some people were optimistic, some Conservatives were optimistic about that. Dennis, you were saying, but our people vote after 4 o'clock. That one showed one result, and now we've got the BBC level IT. I mean, what do you make of all this?
We don't know. I mean, first of all, we haven't been given details of how the polls were taken, how widely spread, how they were focused. They weren't apparently, certainly one of them was only 25,000 people, never mind polling stations. So very difficult to tell from this type of sample. The second thing I'd say is that the indications are, but we should know very soon, that there's been a higher than normal number of people voting. Now, that means that we must have eaten a good deal into the undecideds. And by definition, we have no idea which way the undecideds would vote. The third thing I'd say is that anybody who believes the polls or believes forecasts, whether they're economic or weather, should recall that we were all told last Sunday that it would rain all day on polling day.
Exactly. So that, and let's also add one other poll also that we, that looking at all of the polls before the exit polls, i.e. the poll of entrance polls, that again was 39-38 to Labour. So that's another poll that could be wrong. We just should list all the polls that may be wrong and leave it to people at home to be as befuddled as possible. Mike?
Thanks very much, David. Julian Havlan's at Central Office. Julian, I'm sorry we're going to give you confusing information. You've probably heard what it is. Conservative 41%, Labour 37%, Liberal Democrats 18%, according to one poll. Of course, a reversal of that almost precisely in the other one. Conservatives 38, Labour 41, Liberals 18. I mean, it is, as they were saying this morning, too close to call, isn't it? What do they feel about it at Central Office?
Well, I don't think it's up for me to give a view. We have had one cabinet minister come in, Mike. John Wakeham, who's been helping Chris Patten run the campaign here. And as he went in, he was told the BBC figures, which were the less attractive ones, if I got it right, from the Conservative point of view. And he seemed genuinely unruffled. He said, I'm still entirely confident that we will get an overall majority, a clear majority. He was asked again, and he repeated it. He then went inside.
Julian, it's Adam Bolton here. In fact, I think it's the BBC are saying it's simply too close to call. They think the Tories have probably got marginally more seats in a hung parliament. It's the bad news for the Tories is coming from the Sun and ICM, and the good news from ITN Harris, just to get that straight at this stage.
Right. Well, John Wakeham had obviously prepared this answer anyway, whether he'd heard both or any one of the exit polls. And the other thing about it here is they are convinced that whatever the polls are saying at this stage, the exit polls, the Conservatives are 10 to 15 seats better because of their superior organisation in the constituencies.
I hate to be like the man in the pantomime, but Nick Scott is actually behind you, the Conservative minister. I wonder if you would give us a word.
I'm allowed to talk to him. Nick, is he there?
The other side, there you are.
Hello. I'm sorry I've been keeping you off there. I don't even know if Nick Scott is trying to defend his seat.
No, it's Chelsea sound, and everywhere I've gone looks increasingly sound today. Julian.
You are fighting. I wasn't sure if you'd retired. I've been out of it so long.
Awful. I know people said I was now Sir Nicholas Scott, which I gather is resignation, but no, I've been fighting my seat hard.
And your son. When you go
and a number of other seats across the country, and every day that's gone by, I've been more convinced we're going to win this election.
Now, there's no point in you telling the country or anybody else now
that
you're doing well when it's all over, isn't it?
Exactly. But you're trying to tell me something.
No, I'm not. I'm wondering if it's genuine, this atmosphere of confidence, which is quite striking in here.
I don't know.
And what is based
Until the ballot boxes are open, who can tell? All I can give you are the feelings I've had both in my own constituency today and the constituencies throughout the United Kingdom that I've had over the last week or so, and I think we're going to win.
And you believe an overall majority?
I would be happy, and my best guess would be that we might be in double figures. I mean, something between 10 and 20 of an overall majority. Yes, that's the best guess. And I fought 10 general elections, and all I can give you is the pricking of my fingers.
What's going to happen here? When is John Major going to come here? After his declaration, presumably. Will he come first to Central Office to
I don't know. I've just been back from my constituency at a moment's notice because you wanted to talk to me, and I'd never turn you down, and that's the feeling I've got. John will no doubt come here in due course. The exit polls that I've heard seem to show that we are now ahead, and I look forward to being part of a new Conservative government.
Well, if you're right, there's not going to be the complaints we have heard about the way the campaign has been run from here. But you've seen it in your own constituency. How do you think Central Office and the people in charge have done?
I think Central Office has had a difficult task because of the fact we've been in power for so long and they've been inevitably put onto a defensive posture. But I think in the last 3 days we've changed gear and we've been putting across the positive aspects of what a future Conservative government will do. And I think John in particular, and Chris,